How's it going?
Hey, hey, hey.
Happy to have you guys here. And Alex will be here shortly. He's running a bit late. But in the meantime, we can introduce ourselves if that's cool with you guys.
Cool. I'm Tim. I'm the director of partnerships for Generation Software, which is the dev shop that supports the PoolTogether protocol. And I live in Brooklyn, and I like synthesizers and cats. And I'm vegan. I'm legally required to say that I'm vegan.
I love cats as well, man. I'm Tjark. I'm community builder for the PoolTogether community. I've been around for almost 2 years now. It's been a fun ride. I'm based in Germany.
Cool. And I am Darby. I am the growth lead for the Pool Together community. I'm based on the West Coast. And yeah, I've been in the community consistently since like earlier this year, but I did dabble a bit in the community like a couple years ago almost now. But yeah, I've been a big fan of Pool Together since V3, and I'm excited to talk about the community more and building on Pool Together today with y'all. So this is a really exciting podcast. And yeah, I'll kick it off with the first question that I have, which is an interesting one considering the history behind Pool Together. So initially, Pool Together was not open source. So I'm wondering, Tjark, since I believe you have the most seniority here out of the three of us, could you maybe discuss the initial vision, Pool Together's open source ethos, and how it's basically evolved with communities, with the community growth?
Sure, I will try my best. I mean, PoolTogether has been around since 2019. Initially, that was before DeFi, the term was even a thing. And it was definitely an early attempt of how decentralized finance protocols can look like. And to go back all the way, the initial V1 of PoolTogether was just thoughts. Leighton, one of the co-founders who started it, founded PoolTogether with something good in mind, but the space wasn't as built out as it is today. So PoolTogether started just thoughts, and shortly after releasing the V1 went open source after seeing it being discussed in the community, after early members of the PoolTogether community, she wanted to call it like that, spoke out and said, hey, to be fully auditable and verifiable, this needs to be an open source protocol. So the team went with it and open sourced it, and I think that was in June 2019, so very shortly after it all launched.
Yeah, it's great to see the evolution go from closed source to open source, which is, huge in the space as well. DeFi leverages open source technology because it's all part of the whole Web3 ethos. It's part of, being transparent and inclusive and stuff. So it's great to hear that Pool Together started off closed source and eventually transitioned into open source. And it's great to see that Leighton, heard people when they pointed this out as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And if you want me to add to that, I mean, PoolTogether is being built as an infrastructure for something. It should be the price layer of Ethereum. So this is one reason why it's super important to be open source, fully transparent, and verifiable by anyone. So since it started off in 2019, was initially going open source with the protocol and the code, the space evolved, and PoolTogether is much more than just a protocol. There's cultural layer now, and step by step, these things are being open sourced as well. You can see it with things like the headless brand talk that Alex had at PoolCon, which was about PoolTogether. The brand was created, but it can be used by anyone, and anyone can add to it and help it succeed. So yeah, adding a little bit more to that open source thing. So the step in 2009 wasn't the only one. And since then, many steps were made to go more in that direction.
And in addition to being open source, Pool Together is now essentially, or like very, very close to being completely permissionless, with the exception of governance. But at the protocol layer, it is completely permissionless. And Tim, could you maybe discuss a little further what it means for Pool Together now to be completely permissionless?
Yeah, I think what it does is it frees up creativity. And so there's just, I know from the Generation Software point of view, we've deployed the PoolTogether protocol on Optimism, and there's a Cabana, and there's like a suite of tools under the name Cabana, and you can go there to app.cabana.fi and deposit into PoolTogether vaults. But the vaults you're going to find are Aave vaults. They're like super OG, so we saw Aave tested a couple weeks ago, I think. I think it was, I don't even know what time is, and saw that like the money is Seifu. So like that's what you're going to see at Cabana. But the cool thing is you can take the PoolTogether protocol and put whatever ERC 4626 vault and make it a prize vault. And so you can really do any token, any yield source with PoolTogether, which was the dream. That was the dream. Everybody was comfy cozy in V4 with USDC and Aave. And but you want to hold ETH, right? We're all ETH maxis here. We want to hold ETH. How can we hold ETH with PoolTogether? Well, now we can hold PWETH. And so that's the permissionlessness of it. Anybody can build what they want with PoolTogether, which is awesome. And then the other thing is just the ability to the protocols not changing. We can't just go back in and change things, which is also part of that hyperstructure. It's out there, and now that it's out there, it's out there. And so that's also exciting because you're not going to have you don't have to worry about some multi-sig or some group of people come back and change things around, and so yeah, fully permissionless, not changeable, except for right now. I think the prize structuring is that there's control of that, but that will be seeded so that it'll be fully immutable, and yeah, it just feels good, and it's also this is a minority of projects in DeFi, which blows my mind, right? These are the core values of DeFi, and it's just not easy to do. It's not easy to make things permissionless because you got to be like super above board, super buttoned up, and so it's also cool that there's I know that Token Bryce is doing a group like doing this kind of consortium of permissionless protocols, and DeFi and PoolTogether will be one of those. So that's cool as well.
Tjark, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think we're talking about the permissionlessness and what this means. I think you can see it this way: the price layer is only as effective as its network effects, and PoolTogether is a protocol. It was a long time misunderstood as being a product, but it's actually way more than that. A lot of products can be built on the PoolTogether protocol, and by it being fully permissionless, anyone can opt into that price layer, contribute to it, and also profit from its network effects without being a part of PoolTogether. PoolTogether is basically more becoming what it was envisioned to be. I think Brandon said it in great words, like the Ethereum of prices, or the Ethereum of price savings. And this can only work if it's fully permissionless. PoolTogether V4, for example, was way more curated. There was only USDC possible to deposit, was only on a couple of chains. And with V5, this becomes totally different. Anyone or any project could come and at their yield source their tokens. And PoolTogether is now much more than this perceived bug that it was. It's actually now set up to become that infrastructure that it should be.
I can't wait to see like what gets built on top of this permissionless PoolTogether now, especially with the ability to create prize vaults. Right? There's no longer like this whole governance model when it comes to adding new tokens or new assets to the protocol. So I'm pretty excited to see that as we roll out to new chains as well, to new layer twos. And I see that Alex is in the building now and he's speaker. So, hey, Alex, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Sorry, I had to deal with some kid stuff this morning, but I'm excited
No
with this
worries.
chat. Yeah, no, I have a lot to say,
Yeah,
but I'm still gathering my thoughts here.
Okay, sure thing. Yeah, I am going to the PoolTogether account very quickly to find the article that you wrote recently. So I was wondering if maybe you could tell us a bit more about that and what your thought process was behind writing it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most interesting things about PoolTogether for me is this idea that, like, to use an analogy, like we're not like building a car, we're building like a factory that makes engines. And then people could like make a lawnmower, people could make a race car, people could make a tow truck. Like this is where you're kind of creating this like infrastructure that people build on top of. And I think that's exciting to me. I think there's like another aspect to it, which is like, we also have no control over what other people are going to build. You know, we create this permissionless stuff. Anyone can come along and use it. And it's a kind of, as a designer, that's like a very scary thing. Like, oh, we're going to build this thing and we're going to have no say over what's going to happen with it. But it's also exciting. So, you know, that article, I think, is really just highlighting all the stuff that's happened in the past in a lot of ways. But now it's, I think, even going to become, you know, more possible. It's like before, as people mentioned, like there are actually a lot of constraints around V4. And although we have this kind of open community and like a lot of different ways that people could participate in V4, we didn't have the technology infrastructure that really allowed people to kind of participate in any way they wanted. And that's now changed. I mean, I think, yeah, as Tim said, like we haven't like totally revoked governance on the contracts, although that's like on our roadmap in the next couple of months so that they'll be like fully non-upgradable. But, you know, right now, anyone can come along and start building off of these smart contracts. And I think it extends, you know, beyond just the smart contracts. It's like we have the infrastructure that people can build on. We're making the brand open source and making like those pieces accessible and remixable by anybody. And I think this is like one of the primary things that makes Web3 interesting to me is just this kind of swarm approach to creating stuff rather than like a top-down approach.
Very well said. And, you know, PoolTogether has been around for nearly 5 years now. It will be 5 years next year. And, you know, that's a long time for a protocol to be around in this space. But the community has been such a core part of it. And I was wondering, maybe, Tjark, could you maybe give an example of where community input or development led to a feature or like a really cool implementation for PoolTogether across the years?
There are a couple, but I mean, some prominent ones would be pods, for example. And PoolTogether, before it was possible to join the pool with multiple people. So you could basically all contribute to growing the winning chances. And then if your pod wins, you would receive a share of the prize. This was a feature the community wanted and ended up building, and it went from a hack to a protocol feature, which was super cool to see, for example. But there are many differences. I mean, PoolTogether was created with creating something good for people in mind, to create something that helps people, and people always thinking this for further. An example would be anonymous delegations, where when the sad Ukraine war started, people got together and created a big delegation that went into paying for repercussions of that war. And the community got together, planned something, built a front end, and then made these anonymous delegations possible. And just to add a little third thing, which is not a feature, but showing where PoolTogether can go and what it can be used for, would be the State East Pool. That was a novel PoolTogether application where 50% of all yield went into funding with goods, into going and paying for something charitable. This tool had to raise funds for Feed the Children. It had to create a community together with World Aid America, and it also funded a third cause. I don't know from the top of my head, but there's also something that was fully created, also up from the community, and really went into the whole PoolTogether law in the end. Joined the Truliverse, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah, that's a lot. There's been so much across the years that you know, the community has contributed to, and I think it's been a very core part of why, you know, PoolTogether has been around this long compared to maybe other protocols. I was wondering, you know, since you know, PoolTogether is a decentralized protocol and the community is such a core part of it, you know, there's a huge there are a lot of things that come with like decentralized team collaboration. And so, you know, with all of us speakers here, with Tim, Tjark, Alex, and myself being a part of this decentralized like a group of teams, I was wondering if you guys could share maybe a particular challenge that you guys have faced when it comes to decentralized team collaboration. Tim, I can start with you if you're cool with it.
I love everybody. Yeah, I think that you want to go fast in crypto and in DeFi, right? Like that's the desire is to ship, build, acceleration. We don't want decels. But I think that what decentralization does is it and governance does this for sure, is it slows down things in ways that are actually helpful and positive, right? So people get to be heard and opinions get to be shared and ideas are challenged, which is very helpful. And it also is very helpful if you don't like writing a lot and you want to get into crypto governance, you're gonna have to write a lot and you're gonna have to like it. And so yeah, I think that's a challenge, but it's a good challenge. Is that always shipping and always making things, building, changing ideas, all that stuff. I think that decentralization, challenges that. It kind of holds it accountable, and for me, it's actually been very. Although it's kind of like eating my vegetables, but I'm a vegan, so I have to like vegetables. But it's been really good because I'm an idea person, and then I can have 100 ideas, but it's like which idea do I really want to push through governance and write big posts on and gather consensus around and that sort of thing. What are my top 1 or 2 ideas that I want to do that? And so that's been a challenge, but I think it's also been really good for the PoolTogether community.
Yeah, I agree with what you said regarding like challenges. Like there are challenges, but they're like good challenges that you know, push forward for the community. And I totally agree with that. Alex or Tjark, do you guys have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, one, I feel like Tim, you're very diplomatic, and I appreciate it. I think coming from myself, coming from I guess like the startup world or just normal tech life, there's a real clear like a lot of the world operates in this model of like there's a leader and then there's the people underneath the leaders and leaders set a vision and then you go forth and execute on the vision and working in something that's truly decentralized, which I think many things in crypto that call themselves decentralized are not. And I can say for sure that PoolTogether is decentralized. But when you go into that realm, like it means you have to have trade-offs. Like there are going to be, you're going to go and try and grab the ball and run with it in one direction, and someone else is going to grab the ball at the same time and try and go in a different direction. And then you're going to have to decide, how do you talk about which way you want to go? Who decides when you're going to go one way and when you're going to go another way? And I think, as a person who's often trying to grab the ball and run one direction, I've had to try and learn to share better. And I think it's a challenge. It's also an opportunity. We have the benefit. It's like, yeah, the swarm maybe moves slower, but that kind of hive brain is perhaps smarter ultimately. And, people can bring, maybe I bring my design skills and I have experience making whatever design thing, but I don't have experience that like Tim has or that Tjark has, leading the community or understanding the community or knowing what's been done in the past and like what people have explored in the past. And so when we are kind of forced into these situations where we have to like with no clear pathway or no clear set of rules, we have to decide like what's going to get done, what's not going to get done, what are we doing first, what are we doing second. Those things are hard, but I think they also lead to some great results. And so we don't need to get into specifics, but there's definitely been like times even in the, like this group project that a bunch of us on this call did around marketing where we were frustrated and we were like, maybe the things weren't going in the direction that we wanted. And I think that I can say now, having gone through all of this, that yeah, we were frustrated, but I think we also saw the fruits of that labor and the benefits of getting through that tough stuff. So, I mean, I think this all comes back to like what's exciting to me about DAOs and decentralization is like a new way of building things and then the new benefits that come with that new way.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you've said. And Tjark, do you have anything you would like to say?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when you're talking about decentralizing work, decentralization only goes so far the loud people are. So it basically only works if people are out there sharing their opinions, their expertise, and trying to collaborate, because coordination and co-creation is always what people really, really want. But it's not to forget that this adds a huge amount of extra work for many people, so it can work. And I think at PoolTogether, for example, we're pretty good at telling each other what we like and what we don't agree with. Of course, it can always be better and more. But I think one thing that's maybe important for people to follow is just speak your mind. Don't overthink things. If you see something someone else does, have to improve it. And this is basically how I think that it works best. I mean, decentralization in this part doesn't have to do with token voting, but actually with coordinating and collaborating. And we're on a pretty good route. I hope to see now with Future Generation 5 to see people waking up again and seeing what opportunities this actually offers to them. And I hope people take them.
Yeah, I think a big part of decentralization is this idea that everyone has something to offer. And I think PoolTogether is like a really good embodiment of that, because everyone who has participated in PoolTogether and contributed has brought something to the table. And Tjark, I was wondering if maybe as the community lead for the PoolTogether community, what strategies have you found to be the most effective for guiding community contributions towards like a unified direction while maintaining the open source spirit?
That's a good question, and I think it has many answers. But I think, especially with online communities today, people only have a very limited amount of time, and everyone is super stretched. Not everyone has the time to focus full time on a project, especially when it's something open and collaborative. So one strategy that has worked for us a lot is to have a certain rhythm. And we have a few of these community rhythms. But the one that is strongest is our weekly community call, which always has some kind of a platform for people to speak their thoughts, voice their concerns, show off what they're proud of, and come together with the community. For us, it's a weekly thing. We get together every week. We've been doing that for over 130 weeks now. And I think that has worked great. It can always work better. But having this open platform where people get together and know, okay, this happens every that amount of days. And if there's something I think that has worked pretty well.
Great. Yeah, I think it has worked pretty well too. And again, PoolTogether is really great at being inclusive and allowing just about anyone with the will to contribute to simply contribute. Great. So, Alex, in what ways has the open source approach influenced the design and functionality of the Cabana suite of tools that are currently provided?
Yeah, and definitely. I want to just kind of jump in on what Tjark was saying as well. I think another kind of thing that we use to keep this working and moving, forward in a meaningful way is this idea of values and kind of like I'm actually looking right now in the PoolTogether brand kit. We have the protocol constitution, which is basically mission, vision, and values. Pretty common thing to see in a business, but like that's something I see time and time again. Like the PoolTogether community, it's not like we're like explicitly bringing it up, like, oh, let's go read our values. But people know what the values are. People know that it's like about not losing money and like being, wealth creating and about saving and this like positive financial thing. People know that it's user owned and user led. People know that we put security above all else. And I think that, having those kind of guiding principles make it easier for everyone to kind of work in the same direction. So I just want to add that. In terms of like how being open source affects Cabana, one thing is like, whereas in a traditional brand or a traditional like kind of business environment, there's very like top-down control of the brand and of the functions of this tool. Here we actually are like almost like handing out the pieces to our product and allowing people to assemble them in a way that makes sense to them. So I think, a unique thing is like the way we're approaching brand. And as a designer, it's very, very scary to be like, oh yeah, y'all just take this stuff and go make whatever you want with it. I'll have nothing to say about it. Like that is like the opposite of most branding, but it's totally the approach that we take. And I think it's powerful. And I think that if I showed up to every little thing that people made and said, oh, that should be purple and that's the wrong color and this should look like this and I don't like that, like everyone would be like, you're annoying, Alex. I'm not doing this anymore. And so I think like letting go sometimes is like a superpower. I think, in terms of Cabana and making it like open, I think there's like a lot of technical challenges that we had to face, or around the interface. Like one example of that would be the vault lists. Like it's a superpower that you can put, basically anyone can come along and create a vault, and it allows for this kind of like long tail of people to come and integrate with PoolTogether. At the same time, it's like a danger. And so we had to let anybody make any old vault, because like from a technical perspective, like vaults could be it's possible to create a vault that could potentially be compromised in the future. Like you could create code that has issues with it, and so like the vault list was the solution to that, of like, we are going to make it totally possible that anyone can come along and create any vault that they want. But we're also going to create this means by which the community can curate the vaults that they feel are safe and trusted. So I think, always kind of balancing. It's like, how do you invite in all the people to build the stuff that they feel like should be built and they think is going to be important for the protocol, and balance that with like making sure that you can always, follow your values and follow the protocol constitution, and make sure that, we're permissionless, but we're going to make sure that people don't lose funds through our tool. So I guess that's some of the unique stuff that we have to do given the way we work.
That's great. And I was wondering how you guys ensure that you meet the community's needs when it comes to like building these kinds of tools for the community.
The community meets their own needs. Meet your needs, community. What are the needs? Let's meet them.
Nice. So speaking of community needs, so part of PoolTogether v5 and this new hyperstructure, right, is that governance, and this is a bit of a hot topic, but we're kind of nearing the end, so I'm just going to throw it out there.
I love Hot Topic, by the way. Great story.
Yeah. Governance is going to be slowly reduced over time and eventually eliminated. I believe that that's the goal at some point in order to have this completely permissionless hyperstructure. And so the PoolTogether token, or the pool token, is going to switch from a governance token to a utility token. So my question for you guys is, can permissionlessness and governance coexist in Web3? Like, is that a thing that can happen, or is it just not possible?
Can you say that again? It broke up with me a little bit. Can what coexist?
Oh, sorry. So can permissionlessness, or like a permissionless protocol and governance, coexist?
I think the question is, what do you understand under governance? Because governance can be many things. And for example, when PoolTogether was first created, governance seemed to be the right thing and seemed to be the more secure thing to do first when you want to scale. But the whole space and the ecosystem has changed. People have learned things. And I think now having an actual protocol, when it's an infrastructure, having it without governance over direct parameters, that's a good thing. That's a very good point in terms of security. There still needs to be governance over on the social layer, or governance in terms of how a certain funds being distributed or is used to advance PoolTogether. But I think governance was for a long time interpretably different than what governance actually should be, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Tjark. I feel like in the past, at least in other protocols, it's, people looked at governance and they said, okay, we're going to have token holders and there's going to be a lot of them. And because all those minds are going to come together, they're going to make the best decision about X, Y, and Z, and they're going to get us where we're going. And I think that was kind of like the promise, 2 years ago of DAOs and DeFi and decentralized communities. And I think that what we've learned is, or what I've learned is just my personal opinion, is that crowds, one, that people aren't always engaged, like the right people aren't engaged. If you have a question about security or like something highly technical, you can't just go ask any old person, like, what do we do about this highly technical thing? Like you need a certain level of expertise. And so you may not have the right expertise engaged in the community. And I also think you have a lot of kind of like drive-by governance of people who are like, oh yeah, I want to participate and it feels good to be involved in this thing. But like, I think we've seen a lot of places where the community has not made the best tactical choices. And so I feel like the place that it makes sense that I see us moving towards now is that I feel like what the community is good at is like the values and the kind of high level direction of, what is PoolTogether about? Why are you here for PoolTogether? Like, why do you come to the community call every week? And like those kind of things, like setting that direction feels like a really great thing to get from the community. And I think that the benefits there's like other benefits basically to like leaving certain choices to be with people who have deep expertise in these topic areas. I think security is like a great example of that. Like you'd need to have a lot of knowledge to be able to make informed choices. Like I personally don't think anyone should listen to me about security because like I don't write smart contracts. So I think, we're kind of still navigating this world, but I'm excited that we're like moving towards a place where we're not asking for like turn by turn directions from the community. We're more asking for like, what's the broad place we want to arrive at? And then the community is like empowering the builders who do have the expertise to then determine like, well, how are we going to get there? Are we going to take 2 lefts and a right, or are we going to take a right and then go straight for a while and then go left? It's like, I think that's something that we've managed to do well in the last year or so, is that a lot of people have stepped into their expertise and are using their expertise to help the community make good decisions. And we're not, voting on every little tiny choice we make.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I think that just puts a double stroke under that you can govern people, you can maybe govern companies, but I don't think you can really govern protocols, or at least you shouldn't govern protocols. And I think, as Alex said, we're on a great way to find a good balance of how to get as many people involved into building something that's good for a lot more.
I kind of just hearing that, I feel like there's like an analogy to gardening and maybe even like native plant gardening as opposed to like trying to like, plant vegetables or some, like we're kind of setting the direction of where it goes, but we're also just like letting the roots, suck up nutrients and the plants grow as they will.
You can grow the seeds, but you can't grow the plants.
Yep.
They have to grow themselves.
Totally.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of my other questions was basically like, are protocols better off without a governance model? And I think, Tjark, you kind of said, yeah, like protocols shouldn't have to be governed, right? So yeah, I agree with that. And Tim, I saw you unmuted like a minute or two ago. Did you have something to say?
I always have something to say. I just like through this discussion, I'm also thinking about the difference between community and governance and how, the drive has been to give community members governance power. But the thing about like the world we live in and crypto in general is that it's like shiny new object syndrome. There's always new stuff and there's always things to go to, and you might get governance in one thing, but by the time you get enough to use and like have a vote, then you might have moved on to something else. And so I really think that community is the superpower. Like I do believe in governance, and I've seen it work really well. And I know that like Tjark runs the Pool Collective, which is PoolTogether community, participate in optimism governance. And so that's cool. That's great. And like, it's really effective and it's big brain stuff. But also like, I went to PoolieCon for ETH Denver, and I got to see like the power of community. I go to the community calls weekly that Tjark puts on, and I see the power of community. And it's like one of those things that's like long lasting, non frustrating, good vibes. You know, we talk about like maybe we're going to start talking about vibes again, and now that the charts are somewhat green. But yeah, it's been that community has been kind of the force that's pushed through with PoolTogether. And governance is great too. And governance is important, especially when it comes to security issues and all that stuff. But so anyways, as we were talking, I was just in my mind thinking about community versus governance, which is a whole nother topic for a whole nother Twitter Spaces.
That's a good point, actually, because it's very easy to like confound both, right? And like, there's definitely a difference between a governance model or just governance in general versus an actual community. And of course, there are all those flaws that I think have kind of come to light over the years in DAOs, where it's like, you know, there will be whales with tokens. And so maybe like smaller token holders will be disincentivized from like participating and stuff, right? That's like a whole nother topic. But yeah, Alex, did you want to say something?
Yeah, well, I think it's a really interesting thing, this idea of like governance versus community. And I think we should also be clear that like saying that we're removing governance doesn't mean that we now just are like the people that are the builders on this that are getting paid are now just unilaterally making decisions and ignoring the community. If anything, I think it empowers the community even more. And like we, you know, I think it's kind of more just like moving the choice from like, should we do A or B to arrive at X? And it's like we're not asking people to choose on do we do A or B? We're asking people to choose like, do we want to arrive at X? And I think it's like, although we've removed governance, we've like, I think that increased our dependency on our community. Like we can't, now that we are like not putting the functions of our protocol up to vote for the community, that means that not that now we ignore the community, but more like that the community is going to expect us to listen to them because they haven't been given any votes and they're expecting us to act on their behalf. So it's like we took away the voting mechanism, but we didn't really take away the accountability. In the end, we still have to arrive at that same far off place of like this secure user-owned autonomous protocol that anyone can use for this, you know, kind of financial good. So it's like a really subtle difference, but I actually feel like in a way the community has more power in a protocol that doesn't give them direct governance.
That's a really interesting take. Yeah. Yeah, in a way, it that's interesting. So like you feel like a community has a larger voice when they have no way to govern, or
I know that sounds absurd in a way, but like because we also
Yeah.
are not like we don't have no way to govern. I think right now what we see as our governance is that teams that want to build on PoolTogether say what they want to build, they make a proposal, and then the community votes on whether they want to fund those proposals, which to me is like they say, is that where we see this whole thing going? Yes or no? And you know, there's been times when even like people on the court, like what was, you know, formerly PoolTogether Inc., or some of those people are now working for Generation. And Generation or PoolTogether Inc., I've seen these situations where someone on those teams or one of the leaders on those teams says we should do X, and then it goes to the community, and the community is like, we don't want to do X, and then we don't go do it. And so I think it's like we haven't completely removed that ability of the community to determine like what happens and what doesn't. We've kind of changed the mechanism of control a little bit.
Gotcha. Cool. We are, I guess, technically over time. So do you guys have anything you wanted to touch on before we end the call today?
I'll say that the title is Building with PoolTogether, and right now there's a super fluid PoolTogether hackathon going on. And there's this one project that I'm excited about called Pweethy. And it's the ability to deposit your Pweeth, your prize wrapped ETH, and then borrow wrapped ETH against it. So you can like get the power of PoolTogether, but also go spend your wrapped ETH as well. It's really cool. But there's so many cool things with V5 to build with PoolTogether, with the hooks. There's automations. There's cool stuff you could do. And we just saw this past week, DEX aggregators, Ethos is now picking up PoolTogether without the need for liquidity. So you can just swap into PoolTogether using a DEX aggregator. You can also use portals.fi to do this as well. You can zap into PoolTogether. So people are building with V5, and we just launched it like a month ago, right? Like not even a month ago. So like exciting stuff is happening. Build with PoolTogether. Build.
Totally good, really good highlight. Shout out GLoco, building awesome stuff, and others. I wanted to just highlight something that's coming up where we're going to be releasing a new version of the brand kit, which, you know, previously was like the PoolTogether brand assets, and then a lot of these kind of various expressions of Pooly, all of the different versions of Pooly. And now we've also kind of expanded it into like, I've taken like PoolTogether.com, the current V5 design, and broke it into pieces. And I'm kind of trying to create this like kit of parts that people can build from. So I'm really hoping that this is going to be like the beginning of a Cambrian explosion in the PoolTogether brand, where we're going to see, a lot more expressions and extensions of it. And keep an eye out for that. It should be coming out in the next couple of days.
Awesome. Yeah, and I will then want to quickly add, Tim mentioned it, 2 opportunities to get involved and rewarded at PoolTogether right now. One is the hackathon we're doing with Superfluid. People still have time until the end of the month to submit a project, so you don't need to sign up or anything. You can just start building, and there's $4,000 in prizes to grab. So for anyone who's the dev or knows the dev and wants to team up with them, that's an opportunity right here. And the other thing is our content booster program, where we're looking to reward creators on a monthly basis. So if people are creating cool PoolTogether videos, explainers, or articles about better people explore PoolTogether, they can get rewards for that too. And I'm sure Darby will add a link to that at some point. But yeah, shout out to everyone who's building on PoolTogether.
And that brings up another point,
Awesome.
not to try to have the last word or anything, but building, I love that we're having a build with PoolTogether on the deep end, and none of us are builders, like technical builders, like none of us are writing code. And so content and the memes is also building, like you're building that meme, that mind virus of PoolTogether into the zeitgeist as well. So developing content, there's so much you can do, and the best way to get started with PoolTogether is show up at a community call Thursdays at whatever UTC that is. Thursdays at 6 p.m. UTC, something like that. 6:45.
Yeah, I think so. It's 11:45 Pacific. That's all I know. But yeah, and speaking of memes, there is going to be a meme contest very, very soon. So I recommend those who would like to participate to kind of start brainstorming and maybe just refresh your mind by going through our docs. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. This has been a lot of fun. And yeah, thank you, Tim, Alex, and Tjark, and all of you for listening in. I will catch you at the next one. See ya.
Thanks, Darby.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.